Good morning all. Today's topic of discussion is Digital CMOS Circuits Part 2. The objective of this lecture is to make the students familiarize with CMOS inverter. So we have studied the structure and the operation of the P MOSFET and N MOSFET separately, and these two MOSFETs when combined they are called as complementary MOSFET. So in this complementary MOSFET, we have one P MOSFET and one N MOSFET, and the connection diagram is shown on the left hand side of this slide. We have one P MOSFET which is connected to the VDD and one N MOSFET which is connected to the ground. The gate terminals of both the devices, that is P MOSFET and N MOSFET, they are shorted, and to that one input terminal is connected. This is the drain of N MOSFET and this is the source of P MOSFET. And this, for this N MOSFET we have this drain, and again this is the source. So drain of N MOSFET and source of P MOSFET, they are shorted, and from which the output terminal is taken outside. So this is the layout for this complementary MOS. So here we have this P substrate, and on this P substrate we can easily form the device NPN. So this is your N MOSFET. So N MOSFET can be directly fabricated on a P substrate. So this P substrate is nothing but your silicon wafer on which these N plus regions are embedded. Then we have a silicon dioxide, and then we have a gate terminal. So this is formation of one N MOSFET. Now on the same silicon wafer we want to have the fabrication of a P MOSFET. So for P MOSFET we require N well structure. This pink color, that is the N plus region, is created over here, that is called as a N well, and in that N well these P plus diffusions are prepared. So this becomes now your P MOSFET. So here we have a silicon dioxide and one gate terminal, and then these two devices are interconnected with the help of this metal, and from which the output is taken. So this is the side view, or we can say the cross section, and this is the top view. So by connecting the two diffusion regions, we are taking the output common, that is the source of P MOSFET and drain of N MOSFET, they are shorted. So that is done with the help of this metal strip over here, and the output is taken. Then the gate terminals of both the devices, which are shown with black color, the gate terminals are also shorted, and to that the input is applied. So this is the input which is applied to the gate terminal of both the devices. And then for the N MOSFET, we can see the source terminal is grounded. So this source terminal is grounded, we can see the brown color is there. So this is your ground, and for this P MOSFET we have connected VDD. So this is your P MOSFET, and this is the drain terminal of P MOSFET to which we have connected the VDD. Okay, so this is the layout for the complementary MOS. Now we'll see the characteristic. It combined the NMOS and PMOS transistors. PMOS size is larger for the electrical symmetry. We'll see the advantages of this CMOS. Virtually no DC power is consumed. No DC path between power and ground. Excellent noise margin, that is VOL is 0 volts and VOH is VDD. So noise margin is equal to the difference between the two, that is equal to VDD. Then inverter has sharp transfer curve. So this complementary device which we have seen, which is a combination of one P MOSFET and one N MOSFET, it has a sharp transfer curve. We'll see some drawbacks also. it requires more transistors, so we require 2 devices. Process is more complicated, as on the same substrate we want to fabricate both N MOSFET and P MOSFET. Additional N-well structure is to be prepared, so the process for fabrication is quite complicated. NMOS size larger to achieve the electrical symmetry. So the dimensions of the layouts of the P MOSFET and N MOSFET are not same. P MOSFET size is larger by some ratio, that is around 2.5, and this is required to achieve the electrical symmetry. So when we will study the VTC, that is the voltage transfer curve, at that time we will understand this concept more clearly. And there is one more disadvantage of latch up. We'll see the voltage transfer characteristic. It is also called as VTC. The static operation of a logic circuit is determined by its VTC. So this is the voltage transfer characteristic. We have Vi on the x-axis, that is the input voltage, and we have Vo, that is the output voltage, on the y-axis. So as we know, it is an inverter, so if the input will be 0, output will be VOH, that is logic high, and when the input will be logic high, that is VOH, at that time output will be logic low. So this is the curve which we obtained for this inverter. In low state, the noise margin is NML. So what is this NML? That is nothing but VIL minus VOH. So this is the noise margin for the low state. So when the input is logic low, at that time output is logic high. So the margin between this low VOL and that VIH, the difference between the two is nothing but the noise margin. In high state, the noise margin is NMH. So it is shown with the help of this blue line over here. This is the noise margin in the high state, that is NMH. It is the difference between VOH and VIH. This initial letter indicates the that I or O means this is input and this is output, and this is input logic low, output logic low. Output logic high, input logic high. That difference will give you the noise margin for the high state. An ideal voltage transfer characteristic will maximize the noise margin. So this noise margin optimum value is VIL and VIH are the points where the slope of VTC is equal to -1. So this is your VIL and this is VIH. So these are the cutting points, like from here to here. So for the ideal case, it should be a straight vertical line. Means the slope of this line should be equal to -1. It should be decreasing, and that's why that negative sign is there. So ideally this should be exactly vertical line. So this NML is equal to NMH, which is equal to VDD by 2. So the highest voltage that we can obtain, highest output, that is equal to VDD, and exactly half of that is nothing but the noise margin. That is, if the supply voltage that VDD is equal to 5 volts, then this noise margin should be equal to 2.5 volts. That is half of that. Then about the switching time and the propagation delay. So as soon as we will apply the input, output should change accordingly. So there is an exact inversion operation between the input and output. So when the input will be logic low, output will be logic high. And as soon as the input will start rising, actually the output should also drop, but there is some delay, and that is called as the switching time delay. And there is one more delay, that is called as the propagation delay. So we can see the rise of the input signal from 10% to 90%. This duration is nothing but the TR, that is the rise time. Similarly, when the input is becoming logic low, at that time also we are not getting exactly vertical line, it is a slanting line. It takes some time to reduce the signal from 90% to 10% of its maximum value, and that is called as TF, that is the fall time. So there is a considerable rise time as well as fall time. So ideally these two timings should be equal to 0. And one more thing that we can see is TPHL, that is the propagation delay, that is from input to output. How much time is required, that is nothing but the propagation delay. This propagation delay is calculated from this point. It is the point at which the input is having exactly 50% of its maximum value, and this is another line that you can find. It is the time at which the output is having exactly 50% its maximum value. So the time required for output to change with input from its 50% of maximum to 50% of maximum output is called as the propagation delay. So as the output is becoming high to low, it is denoted as TPHL, that is the propagation time from high to low. Similarly, from the another transition, that is when input is becoming low and output is becoming high, at that time also we can measure this delay, that is the propagation delay, and that is denoted as TPLH, that is the propagation delay when the output becomes high from low. So these are the four important parameters. TR, that is the rise time. So just now in those waveforms you have seen, it is the time required for the waveform to rise from 10% to 90% of its maximum value. TF is the fall time. It is the time required for the signal to reduce from 90% of its maximum value to 10% of its maximum value. Then the third term is TPLH, that is the propagation delay from low to high. And then we have TPHL, that is the propagation delay from high to low transition. So the inverter propagation delay is equal to, it is indicated or denoted as TP, which is equal to half TPLH plus TPHL. As there may be some slight variation in these values, so always the average of these two values are taken as the inverter propagation delay. We'll go for the NMOS switch, and we'll see the difference between this NMOS and CMOS. So if we'll consider only one device as a switch, then how the operation will be there. So that NMOS is considered as a switch over here, and you can see that the input V in is equal to 0 or logic low. So at that time, what will happen? When the input is low, at that time output will be logic high because the device will not conduct, and at that time output will be connected to VDD through this resistor RD. So output will be equal to VDD. We'll see the next condition in which the input is equal to VGS or it is equal to logic high. So at that time this N MOSFET will turn on, and when it will turn on, the output will be connected to ground through the switch. So at that time the output will be VDD minus the drop across this resistor. So that is equal to ID, RD, where ID is the drain current and RD is the resistance connected to the drain terminal. So this is the output voltage. So it is low, but it is not equal to 0. So we are expecting that the output voltage should be 0 for the logic low condition, when means when the input is equal to logic high. Now we'll compare this with the CMOS switch. So when we'll combine this PMOS and NMOS, we'll get a CMOS, that is the complementary MOS switch. In this complementary MOS switch, we are connecting the drain of P MOSFET to VDD, source of N MOSFET to ground. The source of PMOS and drain of NMOS, they are shorted, and then the output terminal is taken from that. Gate of both the devices are shorted, and then the input is applied to that. So this CMOS switch is called as an inverter, and the body of each device is connected to its source. So there will be no body effect in this CMOS switch. Now we'll see the operation of this CMOS switch. So the first condition is input is low. So input is low, at that time how the circuit will operate. We'll see the equivalent diagram. Now when the input is low, at that time NMOS will be off. So the downward switch, that NMOS device will be off. So it is shown as an open switch over here. So NMOS will be off and PMOS will be on. So when the device will be on, the drop, or we can say the resistance which is coming across this device will be equal to RDSP. This indicates the resistance between drain and source of P MOSFET. Resistance between drain and source of P MOSFET. So this is the equivalent circuit, and at that time, as this switch which is connected to ground is open, the output will be equal to VDD. In the previous case, what we used to get is VO is VDD minus the drop across this resistor. But now, as it is a switch instead of a physical resistor, and that's why the resistance will be very small, and then the drop will also be negligible. So this RDS is low, very small. Now we'll see the second condition, that is input is high. So when the input will be high, we'll see the equivalent circuit. So in that equivalent circuit, now as the input is high, NMOS, that is the downward device, will be on and PMOS will be off. So PMOS is replaced with the open switch. NMOS is replaced with its internal resistance, which is very high, and that is nothing but that is very low, that is RDSN, that is the drain to source resistance of the N MOSFET, which is very small. So output will be equal to, output will be just it will be similar to the device grounded through this RDSN. So output VO will be equal to logic 0. So for this CMOS switch, we'll get exact logic high and logic low output. There is no drop across any other component. So this is the combined operation for the CMOS inverter, and the resistances between drain and source of N MOSFET and drain and source of P MOSFET, the equations are given over here. So these resistances will be very small, and the output will be exact near to the logic 0 as well as logic 1. So there is switching between the devices, and the current which will flow is also very small. So but it will result into some short switching transient current, but that is very small, and you can see this graph. So the current will be there. switching transient current, but that will be for very short duration, and the amplitude is also very small, and that will require a low power. So power consumption will be only during the switching, and that will be also very less. So now we'll see the advantages of this CMOS inverter. So output voltage levels are 0 and VDD. The signal swing is maximum possible. Static power dissipation is 0. So there will be dissipation only during the switching, and that is very small. Low resistance path to VDD and ground when needed. High output driving capability and increased speed. Input resistance is infinite and it gives the high fan out. So the load driving capability of CMOS is high. Transistors can sink or source large load currents that can be used to charge and discharge the load capacitances. Now for the proper operation of the CMOS inverter, we should have the matched CMOS inverter, so that we can find out from the voltage transfer characteristic. CMOS inverter can be made to switch at the specific threshold voltage by appropriately sizing the transistors. So by properly designing the layouts of these P MOSFET and N MOSFET, we can achieve the matched VTC, that is the voltage transfer characteristic. Now in this matched voltage transfer characteristic, we can see the slope of this VTC or the transition is equal to -1. So that will get maximum noise margin for the low transition as well as the high transition. And to get this appropriately, or we can say the VTC with the ideal requirement of slope, that is equal to -1, can be obtained by properly selecting the ratio of W by L for the P MOSFET and N MOSFET. So this is the relation for the W by L ratio of P MOSFET, W by L ratio of N MOSFET, and we have this mu N and mu P parameters. So symmetrical transfer characteristic is obtained via matching equal current driving capabilities in both the directions. So when these factors will be matched, that is the electric mobility due to electrons and electric mobility due to holes, when that will match, at that time the matched CMOS inverter VTC can be obtained. Then about the dynamic operation of CMOS. So in this, the exact analysis of the circuit is difficult. Replace all the capacitances in the circuit by a single equivalent capacitance C connected between the output node of the inverter and the ground, and analyze capacitively loaded inverter to determine the propagation delay. So by this way we can find out the dynamic operation of the CMOS. So in this dynamic operation, this propagation delay will come into picture. So this term already we have studied, that the propagation delay for the output to change from high to low and low to high, both are to be considered, because there may be slight variation and hence the average of the two is taken. So components can be equalized by matching the transistors. So just now we have seen the W by L ratios of the transistor can be matched. TP is proportional to C, that is the propagation delay. So we can reduce the capacitance. The all stray capacitances, that is the capacitances between the different leads of the MOSFET, can be reduced. Larger VDD means lower TP. So by increasing VDD also we can reduce the propagation delay, and conflicting requirement exists. So actually we want to have the power consumption as less as possible. If VDD is increased, power consumption will increase, but that will lower the propagation delay, so that will make the device faster. But we want both, we want to reduce the power consumption as well as we want to make the device faster. So there is a conflicting requirement. So this is the slide in which we are discussing the dynamic power dissipation. So in every cycle of operation, how the power will be consumed. So Qn dissipate, that is the N MOSFET, it will dissipate half C VDD square of energy. Qp will dissipate half C VDD square of energy, and the total energy dissipated is equal to C VDD square. So if the inverter is switched at f cycles per second, the dynamic power dissipation is given as F into C VDD square, where F is the cycles per second. So as the switching, that is nothing but the switching frequency. So if switching frequency will increase, the dynamic power dissipation will also definitely increase. Thank you.